All right, everyone. So we are live. It's Quantum Healing with Candace, and today's the 7th of September, 2017, and I'm welcoming my good friend, Katya Turner, to the show today. We're doing an impromptu show because I saw a video that Katya did a few days ago, and I watched it, and I wasn't even done with the video, and I'm texting her. I'm like, Katya, we've got to do a show about what you're talking about here. So I want to welcome all of you who are catching us on Facebook Live. Check out the Zoom link on the Quantum Healing and Beyond show if you want to maybe type in some questions later. But I want to welcome Katya Turner to the show. Hi, Katya. How are you doing today?
Hi, Candace. I'm wonderful. Feeling amazing. The fall has finally gotten to Arkansas. It's a little bit early for like our normal weather, but man, it feels like one giant Sunday. Like it feels so relaxing and mild. It's amazing.
Wow, you may be one of the only relaxed people around right now. The world is in turmoil the way it is, all of the hurricane stuff going on in Houston, you know, the aftermath of all the flooding, and of course the Irma that's barreling down on the East Coast. But let's go back to why we're even getting together today. So you did this video recently that you called is the New Age Movement Dead. And you did it out of, you know, you're in your car and you're waiting for some sort of an appointment, and you did this show, and I'm just watching it going, this girl is speaking my mind, and we have to talk about this a little more. Would you like to encapsulate a little bit about what that video was, what the idea was, what you were thinking, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why I recorded that show, it was like a YouTube live, I think. And the reason why I did that is because I personally am getting a lot of, I'm going to say, aversion to what we call New Age movement, right? And I see this happen across the board everywhere, and I see the need in it happening because we are all grounding back. And so a lot of the things that we used to talk about in the timelines and dimensions, and we understood it, and we understood about the higher self, and we got it all, but we cannot stay there and live there. And so I kept getting triggered to record that over the course of the month because I've been feeling it. But then I go out, let's say on YouTube or Facebook, and all I see is the same reiteration of the same. And it's like, we have got to come down. We have to. Like, how many more activations and full moons and whatever rituals it's going to take to realize that there is not where we live. Like, cool, we got there. Cool, we got to understand who we are. We remembered a bunch. We like unlocked a bunch of our abilities, and they're now conscious. All of it is perfect, but life is happening on the ground, and we all desperately need to take all of that we have just learned and live it. And with me in my personal process, and this is what I mainly talked about in that video, is I kind of like walk people through what actually happened to me, what happened in my life, how I got there. And it was a very interesting process of like stripping myself off the ego, understanding where my center is, what it is, seeing how that energy operates and how it doesn't give a crap about just anything but moving forward and doing what it needs to do. And then putting that ego back, realizing what is the ego? Why is there not a freaking need to kill the ego? How we actually are supposed to love it, and how this and this is probably going to be my next video. I'm so excited to talk about it, how this relationship between the us, the essence, and the ego, how it kind of works together in this like Vesica Pisces relationship. It's so incredibly interesting. And yeah, so I walk people through that and through my process, and kind of the videos that I watched that helped get me there. And yeah, and I titled it very boldly, you know, is the New Age movement dead? And it probably isn't dead, but it's dying for a lot of us. And not to say that it was absolutely useful, no. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting journey. And this is kind of how I look at it. Yeah, it was useful. Could we have done without it? Absolutely. I believe now, looking out on the people and on my own journey backwards, that you can absolutely ascend without needing to get into all of that theory. You can absolutely ascend and be and live the enlightened way and live through the heart and allow your higher self to work through you without needing to go into the, you know, crazy details that we all went through. And again, it was fun. but that's all it was. You know, like, okay, but now it's time to move on. And I recorded it because I see so many people who are still, and you know, specifically those who are making videos, who are speaking out, and I can feel it, how desperately they need to come down and they need to ground. And in my sessions, people are coming to me and they're asking me all of these questions, and oh, my ego and my creative flow. And like, the only thing that I can come back with, okay, but what's really happening? Like, what do you really want right here, right now? All of that, absolutely, it's like irrelevant. It's like this dust floating around that doesn't have any sort of a substance to it. And substance happens when we ground. And when we look at it in a very concrete terms, and that's when it gets simple. That's when you realize that all you need to know is, what do you need to do? What do you want to do? And just move that way. That's it.
Right. Oh gosh. I just love that so much, because you and I both meet people, and we probably even were those people when you're first waking up and you're first understanding all of this, and then that thing happens, that voracious reading and that voracious researching, and then the next thing and the next thing and the next class and the next class, and it kind of doesn't stop. And then we get clients who are like that as well. You know, they wake up and they go, oh my God, because it's like, you know, being literally, this is why we call it this, waking up. It's like being asleep and then waking up and seeing through all of the stuff, and seeing how you slept and were so unaware and unawakened, and unacknowledging so many, you know, key things about energy and relationships in your life, and how basically how life kind of works, you know, rather than having somebody tell you, which was our schooling and our religion and our family, not always for nefarious reasons, but because that's, you know, that's how our parents and our teachers were raised. And it's just this repetition of this pattern. But you're right, because then what so many of us have done is fallen into the trap of understanding that, and then not even getting out of that, and then still not living your life, but just doing nothing more than doing that repeating thing. It's almost like this weird addictive human personality thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I just loved it so much when you said that. And you know what I loved even more, Katya, was kind of your response to me, because you said nobody's really talking about this. And I thought about that a little bit, and there's a few little pockets of that, but here's why, I don't know, you tell me, here's why a lot of us aren't talking about this, because we've kind of built practices and careers and websites and communities
Absolutely.
Around this, and we're like, wait a second, we can't say it's dead, because then what happens to all of that? But I know that you and I both aren't saying, no, it's not completely dead. It's just like, pay attention to your life too. Your life means something. Don't go into these thinking, these theories, these whatever, and then not come out of that and live your life.
Yeah, this is a very interesting subject, because I have been thinking about this myself, as far as like, okay, I see all of these people, and I was one of these people who have the businesses and websites and stuff built around it. That doesn't mean that work that we have been doing can't evolve back on the ground. It doesn't mean that you have, I have goosebumps. It doesn't mean that you just, drop it and close it and that's it. Although for a lot of people, it is going to be that. And part of this awesome journey is kind of allowing yourself to drop it. Yeah. It's huge. That's when you really hit the ground. Yeah.
I love that. I really, really do love that. And you keep using the word grounding, and it means so much, because it really means ground. And it really means get your head out of the devices, get your head out of the other dimensions and the other, okay, that stuff's fun to think about, fairies and life on this planet and, life, past life, future life, whatever. It's fun to think about those things and to astral travel or to have sessions or whatever, but then come back to your life, because there's a lot of people who are missing out on their lives because they can't stop thinking about these things and they can't stop going there. And I've, for a long time, have you done this? Even in my own community, I've kind of done a lot of some eye rolling and some sighing, not to dismiss any of that, but sort of because we're almost burnt out on it, right? It's like, okay.
And
like
that's when you know it's dead for you.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, for some people, it's probably still going to be, like you said, the reason why we were in this community and the reason why we were it is because we felt the pull, we felt genuine interest. It was a thing to do. Now, when you feel like, oh, come on, that's it. Like, this is our guidance. This is what we have learned, if anything, throughout this, you know, this process. So if it doesn't feel good anymore, don't do it. And I feel like with time, you know, the actual movement might wither altogether, because now that there's such a huge amount of people, a number of people who went and came back, we can explain the same thing in a grounded terms. We don't have to go into dimensions and timelines and fairies and angels to really explain what it is all about, like the core thing of it. So over time, I wouldn't be surprised if it would kind of just wither altogether, and it would be like all of the actual information that we have learned through it would be integrated into a society in a completely different way, without this, you know, this ascension movement and better yourself movement and become the best version of yourself. The best version of yourself is already here. And they have always been here. You don't need to go through some crazy loops and dimensions and travels to get there, you know?
Right. Yeah, you know, there's a few others in our community who are talking about this a little bit. You know, our mutual friend, Andrew Martin, posted, you know, you've had your ruby slippers all along, you know, and of course the Kansas girl in me just loved reading that one. But that's so true. But even he, as I was listening to him talk about that, he was doing the same thing that we are doing right here now too, which is for those people who are newly awakened, we're having to qualify some of these statements, meaning we're not saying, hey, yeah, we get it, so now we quit and the whole thing's over. Screw you guys over there. None of us are saying that at all.
Right.
None of us are saying that at all. But what we are saying is, and I love this about you because you're not afraid to say these things, and I'm not either. We're almost too much of a closed community sometimes, like to the exclusion of everything else. To the exclusion, it's sort of like we keep talking to each other. It's a little bit like, you know, preaching to the choir and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I loved it when you said earlier on in the show, when you said, do you need this movement? Do you need all of the activations of all the classes? Hell no, you don't need it. You don't need any of this. You just like, and sorry for offending anybody out there, but even when I was 4, I figured kind of this just can't be right. When I was 4 years old, and some very, very strict fundamentalist Christians would talk to me about baptism, and they would say, you have to be baptized to go to heaven. And even at 4, I'm like, or even 5 or whatever, I was like, well, what about like a kid who was on an island who's shipwrecked with a parent? They've never seen a church, or they don't know any of that. And they're not going to go to heaven because nobody on that island does any of that. I remember asking that question. They're like, yeah, too bad. Too bad for that kid because, yeah, they're not going to go to heaven. And I'm like, that's just like, no. Even at 4, I'm like, that's just not, that can't be right, right? You know, it just can't be right. So we in the, you know, in the New Age and Ascension movement, same with us, right? We can't say you have to understand and know all of this stuff and go through all of that to awaken and evolve and ascend. You don't need any of it.
Yeah, true. And if anything, too, this has been so very interesting, watching how much really judgment the New Age community still holds. There's a lot of the things that are based upon unconditional love, but a lot of the things are really based on judgment. And only when you pull out of it, do you start seeing it? Do you start seeing it in yourself? And do you start looking at the people who are unawakened, who, whatever their thing is, you start looking at them as just another interesting expression. And that's it. And that's all there is to it. There's not even a label to it as unawakened. There just are. They just is this thing in front of you. And they're interesting in their own way. Like, they don't need to be awakened. They don't need to wake up. They don't need fucking anything except for do what they want to do. That's it. You know? And for me, it's really curious, like, to interact with you, this different thing. and to watch you and to see how you think and to see how you interact, because you are like a different expression. That's it. But yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying too is something else that we have been saying, but we've been saying it kind of, you've heard that phrase, saying it at two sides of our mouths. You know, we've been saying, you know, live in the now, live in the now, live in the now, you know, live in the now. And so many of the New Age people have been saying, live in the now, but they haven't been living in the now. Not really. They've just kind of been standing up on a box saying, live in the now, you know, and then not really doing that. And that's,
you know, I believe there's different layers of understanding for all of us. Not so much of an understanding. There's different layers of living the same shit on the different level of where we are, you know? And so as we went up and up and up and up and up, we've spiraled around the same issues, and we saw them a different way and we felt them a different way. And now we're spiraling back down in the body and back down in the body through the same shit. This is why everybody's like, am I going backwards in my life? No, you're not. Am I becoming less spiritual because I all of a sudden started eating meat or something? No, you're not. We're going through the same things. And now, having reached this, coming back down, we're going to be living in the now differently on every single one of the stage. So for the person who is somewhere up in the clouds, right, in the dimensions and stuff, certain thing is the extent of how they can live in the now, you know? And then we're just seeing different kind of shades of gray, you know?
Yeah, I think you explained that very well. I don't know if you ever listened to Matt Kahn, but I happen to be listening to a video of his. Did you catch the one where he was talking about the fact that, I mean, it was really kind of brilliant. It was such a new, and isn't it's such a metaphor for life. It was such a new perspective of what's going on with us. And his idea and his phrase, of course, he spent an hour and a half talking about this, so I'm going to super crunch it down. But he talked about this, and he framed it this way. He said, you aren't on a spiritual journey. Your body is. Did you catch that one?
I did, yes. I watched it, and I watched it up until that moment, actually. I'm like driving somewhere, and he says, your body is. And I totally understand what he's talking about, but that's when I shut off, because I'm like, in my head, it's like, how I see it, it's that your mind is the one on the spiritual journey. Like, yeah, your body is the one that is here to house your mind. And I get the whole perspective, right? I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is when I myself started kind of like through my own process, started watching myself and being like, and whenever I've experienced the true energy coming through me with the ego aside, and I'm like, holy shit. And when the mind really gave up thinking, like there has been a couple of days when it's like, yeah, and like I realized there's nothing to fucking think about. It ain't me who is doing it. So then I'm like, yeah, like this has been here all along. And the only thing that has been ascending is my head. That's it.
That's exactly right. And that was kind of Matt's point. He kind of marries the body to the mind. Meaning, when you're doing the awareness thing, and when you talk about, and he even gives the emotions and the ego and all that, he puts that in that body package. And he says, why do you think that you have some of these thoughts of, I've already gone through that stuff? He says, that's because your body that houses your mind and your emotions is catching up with that, which is why you can observe that now, whereas maybe at some point you couldn't. So those people who are, just now realizing this are seeing some of that you are. And I also really like this part about it, that it explains a little why you can already see kind of maybe answers or solutions to stuff, but they don't happen right away. And they don't even happen right away in you. And he explains it as because the denser thing, which includes your ego and your mind and your body, is kind of catching up to your awareness, the part that's already perfect, the part that already doesn't need anything. And you're watching this other stuff go on, kind of like, that's why it's taking a while. And I think some of that communication and conversation is something for us all to explore. So, you and me and Andrew and Matt Kahn and some of these other people who are bristling even at some terms we use, like light workers. No, don't call me that anymore. I think all of that plays into this.
Oh yeah. For some reason I have been like lately, me personally, I've been triggered some by the term light workers. Like, and I cannot stand another article. Like I'm thinking that, you know how before whenever I was getting into this heavily, I um like censored my Facebook basically to show me only specific things. I was only following specific people. And now I go on my Facebook and it's all nothing but a full moon and dimensions and healing and some activation. And I'm like, I need to redo this all over again because I do not care to see any of it. Another message for light workers, like, no, all the messages for light workers right there. That's all I need to know. Honestly. And even that is another interesting part in the sessions and in general in my life, because I still am in this kind of communication, right? We just like, what is it? Like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we did a QHHT session with me, like Cherokee regressed me at home. That was interesting to see because I could finally speak, right? Because I was like, I'm curious because now I'm channeling. Will I be able to let my higher self speak? And yes, but it was so much different than what I have expected. Because even whenever I was channeling before, when I was very ungrounded, when I was right here in my third eye and my crown, right? I was kind of channeling from there. Now it feels like this got not so much closed, but it's not there anymore. It's coming. And this is very interesting. And I can literally physically feel it. It's coming from the heart.
Yes. Yes.
Like the words that are coming out of my mouth are coming from the heart, whether it be me channeling for somebody, just me toying with my own higher self perspective, right? Or that QHHT session. Because I kept expecting it to be from a different place. And what I could feel, it's almost like this energy from my heart trying to punch through my throat, like speak these words, speak these words. So interesting. So now all of these knowings, all of the everything just doesn't literally come from the crown anymore. It streams from inside. It streams from the heart. So cool.
And we've been getting clues, and you've been hearing this over and over again. We speak sometimes, they end up being like platitudes. We talk about speaking from the heart and coming from the heart. And you hear that so many times and you almost don't think about it anymore, but you just so eloquently talked about how that really feels, you know? Mm-hmm. And some of what some other quantum healing practitioners have been doing is talking about feeling yourself breathe through your heart as you're going into a session. And then, putting the heart and the mind and getting the flow and getting them in sync with each other so that the session goes that way, because I think you're so right about what energy centers are kind of pulling and having us go like that. And what about this? Because this is so prevalent in my own practice. I have people coming all the time or talking to me all the time about their hearts and palpitations and other things like that. I mean, that's why there's stuff going on here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is very interesting. And I think also one of my next videos is going to be about the melting of the heart and how, like, this is a very specific word. And I think I have personally heard it somewhere like in a yoga class, but it's a very accurate description of what happens when you like fall in your flow and where it is and how it feels. It's literally melting of the heart. In this grounding process. And as far as like what you have just talked about with the session and getting people more into their heart, something that I have noticed lately and I have been thinking about a lot is the exhale, how deeply we exhale and how we physically can feel our center. And I think there's actually a specific nerve that is the center. You know the I don't know if you've seen ever these graphics of flower of life breathing, right? And we come to the center and we breathe and we like breathe in life basically and make stuff, create stuff, and then we come to that's the center. Like I feel like there's an actual physical point that can be named as a part of the body, as a specific nerve that you feel as your center. And that happens when you fully like exhale. And that's when all of these things, the letting go and all of that happens on that exhale, that relaxing in the body and coming to center happens on the exhale.
You know, while you're talking about that, I'm imagining the toroidal field around you, you know, and then imagining the tree of life and imagining a, you know, a human body in there, and how interesting that if you do imagine it that way, you know, up here, the toroidal field is opening up and kind of up here. And what you're describing is
right there. Yep.
The very center of the toroidal field. Yep. And I think that's exactly right. And
here's another thing that I want to talk about, which is super interesting, is that specific nerve that we want to feel, that we feel as our center. You know, the, how people call the Buddha belly, like people are growing these like diaphragms. Why? I have noticed myself that the reason why I would switch my diaphragm, and I will once again record a video showing it, what happens when I feel the nerve. So you feel yourself literally like, I don't know, like changing the shape of your diaphragm specifically to feel your center. It's kind of a backwards way of doing it, right? Because whenever you get rid of all of the junk, you will actually be in that center, right? And that's when you feel the energy interference and everything. And then you, again, to get rid of the junk, you release and you come back to center. But that's where I feel like that phenomenon is coming from. It's from literally like kind of going backwards to feel your center, to feel that nerve in your diaphragm.
You know, it's just so astonishing how we are on the same page here. Even last night, like I'm in the bathroom and I'm like inhaling watermelon these days because I can't drink enough water. I'm so thirsty all the time. And sometimes even the water doesn't seem good enough, and all this watermelon, but sometimes I really put the watermelon in, and then I feel exactly that point that you're talking about. It's so funny while I'm so hydrated. And I actually yesterday was thinking about the Buddha belly thing, because so many of us are talking about that. You know, I'm a woman of that particular age, so that happens to a lot of us, but still I'm like looking at that going, but I'm just still not sure about that thing down there. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I just finished eating watermelon, and I thought exactly that. I'm like, but it's not even just my belly, it's my diaphragm. I was looking at myself last night sideways in the mirror going, my diaphragm is different. I'm breathing different, and I'm always feeling myself right here. It's crazy that you're talking about that. That's just now coming. Just a few hours ago, I'm going, what the hell's going on here with the diaphragm? And you're right on it.
Yes, this is so, I cannot wait until the scientific community catches up with it, and I can actually read, I don't know, the confirmation of this weird theory, because the weird theory is based upon basically just my own experience. But I have been watching this for a couple of years now, and watching myself change my breathing and watching myself reach for that point, even realizing how sometimes smoking gets me there because it tickles that point. Does that make sense? The heaviness of the smoke descending in there, it touches the point of alignment. I don't know how many people have noticed that, but I myself have definitely I kind of realized that back in the day that I like smoking because of the sensation. I could never understand what is it and why do I like it that much. Now it's different, that I can kind of see it. And again, this is all just going backwards at it, because in our perfect cleansed state, we always feel that point. We always feel that point. And then we go and we become ungrounded and we become happy or not happy. And it's also normal, right? But then we come back to center again, whatever the activities. And the activities don't have to be yoga or meditation or going someplace. The activities can be normal on the ground activities that get you there. That's it. I remember as a kid specifically, again, now feeling this point more, I remember myself constantly being in the state, and how I could understand the interference inside of me and all these ways that I had of kind of wiping that off to get back to my center. They were nothing like, meditation stuff. Not to discount any of it. It's still an awesome practice. Channeling, still an awesome practice. Still sometimes while living on the ground, you can check in with whatever your galactic family. It's fun. They're still going to tell you some awesome stuff. It's still going to be amazing. It's just, just residing there doesn't do us anything. We have created these bodies and these personalities to come experience this. So what's the point of trying to pull back home?
Yeah.
If we're here right now, let's play.
exactly right. I'm actually remembering something right now about after-death communication. I have my best after-death communication in dreams. And this happened to me several years ago, quite a number of years ago. I had a friend who, my mother, it was a family friend, and she used to make this man pies. And she used to bring him all kinds of pies and sometimes cake. And I had this dream about once where he came to me in a dream and he was talking to me about how great peach pie was and how great strawberry pie was, and that being in that they can imagine, or they can have like an energetic experience of peach and strawberry pie where they are right now. But he said it's nothing like having pie where you are right now. And the part that ended up being so interesting about this dream was, he was like, now when you wake up, I want you to think about this. And my daughter, if you're Lauren, if you're listening, so this is my old friend Nick, and he said, go make a peach and strawberry pie together, because I'm trying to make it now, or I am, and it's okay. He goes, but I keep thinking about how a human would taste a combination peach and strawberry pie. He says, I never had one of those. Have you? He was so interested, because he was like, go make a peach and strawberry pie. You know, I don't think I've ever done that yet, but I'm going to give my daughter the challenge to come up with maybe a peach and strawberry pie, because you're right. This is why we're human, and we're human to have peach and strawberry pie. And you and I were talking earlier before we got live. We're even here to do what seems like the crummy stuff, right? The tragedies and the sadness and some of the heartbreak. And that's kind of some of what our community may not quite grasp yet. They keep wanting to fix things and have everything, you know, the happy stuff. We're here for the crappy stuff too, aren't we, Katya?
Absolutely, yes. And you know, what we have been talking about specifically pertains to the hurricane, and like where I was pulling out all of those ideas of mine. And for those of you guys, right, to catch you up. So we have been talking about the fact that I'm watching a lot of people on Facebook saying, okay, let's pray, let's divert the hurricane. And something inside of me rises and like, why? Why do you want to divert? It's part of it. It's part of this experience. It's like you said, okay, I want to renovate my apartment. And when people come to demo your kitchen, when you wanted a new kitchen, you're like, oh my gosh, let's pray and divert them so that they don't, you know, don't hit the kitchen. That's kind of how it feels. It's like it's something that we have been all asking for, but when it's coming, we don't recognize it as something that's coming for us. We see it as this, oh my gosh, this disaster coming at us. I don't see it that way, honestly. And speaking from the deepest core, it's like, I welcome it. And I look at it in the point of, okay, certain people are going to feel pulled to leave the area, like genuinely feel like, okay, I want to leave. They are going to leave. People who are not going to feel like leaving, they're going to stay. People who are meant to die are going to die. People who have chose to die are going to die. People who are not going to die, they're not going to die. If you haven't made it a point for you to die that way, that day, you're not going to die. So it's just so freaking simple. So what is there to divert? It's like we're trying to divert life from ourselves, life that we are trying to welcome here, and the diversity of life and the contrast of life and all of these experiences. And the more that we go into their core, the more that we go and melt our own heart, the more that we can feel the catharsis of every emotion. Not only happiness is happy, grief can be a really satisfying emotion too. Yeah. And it is, really. So just because it is, just because it's happening. Yeah.
I love that. I love that too. Yeah, this need to take all of these very natural emotions like grief and sadness and anger. I think that's another, we really have to think about that in this community. This thing about, well, I'm spiritual, so I'm never going to get mad, or I'm spiritual, so I'm never going to get sad, or I'm spiritual, so I'm never going to, get angry at somebody. Well, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because you're
not only you do, you need to. This is something that my higher self has been really showing me in a very physical manner. I could feel how they're like, okay, so right now you feel like you don't know what you want. And that state normally pisses me off to no end. Like, I need to know what I want. I need to feel myself. And like, okay, well, right now you're in the state. So what? And so, and I could feel how me trying to get out of it and trying to come up with something and trying to look at it another way is really wasting so much energy. I could physically feel my energy being drained. Whereas the point of energy conservation and just being in my center is like, well, okay, this is how I am right now. So they want us to really, okay, this even pisses me off how I still word it. Like, it's not they. It's like we need to stop even looking at it in that way. You know what I'm saying? And just living in the freaking moment. Like, we don't need to strive for a good emotion or strive for a bad emotion, strive for a good outcome. Just fucking live. Like, live and have fun. That's it.
Right. Yeah. And what we talk about sometimes is when you get stuck, you know, when you're only doing the one thing or you're only doing the other thing, or you can't quite understand it, or you can't back up from it enough to see. You know, I think for me, a lot of this started at the death of my brother. My brother was killed very suddenly. He was 26 and I was 28. And it was the biggest trauma I'd ever experienced that just came out of nowhere. You know, he was completely healthy and just one day he was gone. And I watched, and somehow it knocked me so hard. And there was this moment, I may have said this before on other shows, but there was this moment for me. I was in his apartment helping clean it out because my parents couldn't. And I had a moment all to myself where it was so beautiful. Being this sister in the throes of the most imaginable pain and grief. And I had this thought of how beautiful that was and how that was a part of my life. And it was like this flower that opened up in me, and it was this beautiful creation. It was so gorgeous. And I remember the part of me that kind of stopped and thought, there wouldn't be a whole lot of people who would understand this. And this was back in the late, 1980s. So I didn't share it. I didn't even kind of share it to myself until later, after I understood what it was. But I never forgot it. And that's how, even like taking my mother through her final breaths, as painful as that was, I could be present for it and I could see the beauty in it. And
there you go. And being present for it is so huge. If you're not really fully present with yourself, if you're not fully present with your own heart, you can never experience this, what you're talking about. Whenever you can feel the beauty of creation in every moment, no matter what other people would say about it, how horrific is it, or tragedy, or this or that, you can see literally and feel like this orgasmic beauty of creation in that moment, no matter what it is.
Isn't that wonderful for you as a young mother? I knew this a little bit when I was raising my kids, but I didn't know it as well as I know it more completely now. But I think maybe that may be the whole point of all of this, is that now we can bring our progeny, our children, our grandchildren into the world where we didn't do what some did before us, and create these, you should feel this and you shouldn't feel that. Mm-hmm. You should always do this and everything. And to actually accept it all and to love it all and to live it all in a much fuller way. And maybe that's why, I don't know about you, but here's some of it for me. I'm tired. I mean, I'm just kind of tired. I mean, I run 2 or 3 businesses all connected with this, the radio shows, the directory, the support forum, and I'm not going to stop any of those things. But I'm finding a little bit like, I really need to set that aside and do some more, I want to play with my grandbabies and I want to ride some more horses. And those other things are important, but they need to not overwhelm and take over my life, even though I'm a type A personality, even though I get that shit done. I want some more regular life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can so see that. With me, absolutely the same way. And as far as looking at my children, it's like the more that I ground in, the more excited I become, of being a mom and just kind of this journey that we're taking together. Holy moly. It takes a whole lot of more, substance to it, as I take a whole lot more substance to myself. very interesting. And as far as like setting the businesses aside and stuff, absolutely. But what I'm really, really pumped about is seeing how, because all of those businesses, like none of that is going to die, but it's going to change. And again, have more substance behind it, not just talk, but actual like human, earthly substance. So it's like, what is it that we're going to do? And what is it that we're going to talk about? And for me, I feel like a lot of it is going to be working with children, and how it was freaking miraculous how I've experienced like my jolt into that work, and kind of seeing how we're going to do that on the ground. Because I feel like all of us right now who are on kind of like this forefront of thought, right, and of this process and whatever, we are going to change the world in a way. And it's like, what are we going to do with it? Like, this is where it really starts. Like, this is so exciting.
It really is exciting. And I love that fact about you bringing some of these, you know, not staying in that same, sometimes, you know, closed community. But taking now what you've learned, how you've grown, and taking it into the community with children. You know how I feel about, and I'm doing that in my own little way like this, is with the animals. You know, with my really good friend who's the vet, and I've been shadowing her, and she consults with me and I consult with her. She's actually in her new place. She actually has a room where she wants to allow me to sometimes maybe assist with her to talk with clients about how the energy of their life is not only affecting their animals, but their animals are reflecting that energy back to them. This concept that, you know, I'm almost sure no one in vet school is talking about, right? I mean, talks about that, but because I am, and because this open-minded young veterinarian here in rural Kansas, my beautiful friend Jessica Harrison and her whole family have welcomed me into their lives and their community and in their own animals' lives. And so that's one of the ways that I'm doing this as well, is like, well, here's a way to think about that, you know, and here's a way to, I mean, I'll never forget it. A small example of this, but it was so beautiful. It's one of my most precious, proud moments in my life, because I almost became a vet. I mean, I love the animals so much. I almost did, but what I understand is what my work I'm doing now, it's far more aligned to me and important in my own life, and I'm better suited for it than traditional vet medicine, certainly. But I had this incident with this cat, and this cat had an injury. And so much I'm understanding what's happening with the animals at my farm have to do with reflecting, but also learning with my association with this vet community. And so the cat had, it was likely hit by a car. He ended up losing his tail. He had a severe bladder injury. He lived, and as he was healing, his bladder didn't work. And it didn't work at all. And they did, and then I did. I had to express this cat's bladder. I mean, think about it. He's healthy, but his bladder doesn't work. The only way he's not going to explode and die is if some human pushes on his bladder 2 or 3 times a day, and then he's fine. Well, how long is that going to last in anybody's life, right? I mean, you know how busy I am, you are. I mean, can you imagine having a cat that has to be squeezed 3 times a day? You know, I mean, come on, but otherwise he's perfectly fine. And then what, you're gonna like put him down or whatever? No. So I'm like, we're gonna get this working. And I had a couple of energy people, but I had this, and this is my point, I had this conversation with my vet friends, because I'm getting ready to take him home, and the squeezing is gonna be all mine, right? Well, hopefully he heals, because it was time for him to leave the vet hospital. And I said, here's what you guys are doing. I'll never forget it. They all kind of stood around. I said, every time you pee, I want you to think that energy towards this cat named Luke. And I watched as one vet, the other vet, the vet tech behind them, the receptionist behind them, they're all like peeking around, listening to me. I'm like saying this loudly, and I am. I'm like, every time you pass the stage, every time you think about this cat, every time you pee, I want you to think about this cat. And I watched the realization happen on their face. Within a day and a half, this cat was peeing on his own. You know?
Wow.
And but watching that
right,
creation of all of them going, I can get how me feeling the energy of release supports this cat to also release. And so now that entire vet community is understanding how their energetic thoughts and feelings about this cat can help this cat, rather than just the head part of it, right? Rather than if those nerves fire again and the bladder works again, then the cat will survive. It was more, they were helping heal from here, the cat, and it worked. And it's just so astonishing to me. Of course, I'm looking at my whole crew at home going, okay, now let's take a break from teaching us all something for a while, right? I mean, we all have something, fractured skulls, some other things that are going on, and it's for this sort of combined learning thing. But I love that fact that you're talking about. Take this stuff and then go live your life.
Yeah, so I feel like all of us, again, we're going to still have these calls. We're going to still have the sessions. We're going to still have the conferences. But on those conferences, we're going to be talking about actual world and what are we doing with it and what are we finding and how are we changing it and stuff. Right. That's exciting.
That is exciting. And this is a great place to end, because I know you got stuff going on in your day and me as well. So it is 1 month from today, really, actually. Right? The 6th and 7th of next month. We're all getting together in Sarasota, assuming it's all the infrastructure and everything, and I'm going to assume it is, because I think the hurricane is veering off towards the east until further notice. Of course, we're all going to be there, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you and Andrew and Heather Alice Shea and Alba Weinman and Sian Chua and Michelle Walling and Greg Prescott and everybody else, all the other quantum healers who are coming down to Sarasota. Please know that we still have tickets. There's not a lot of them left, but there are still tickets. So head on over to cosmicawakeningshow.com, and I'll put links under here. But come see us in Sarasota, because the energy of that hurricane is going to change even where we're going and what's going to happen down there. I'm sure of it. How about you?
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. First of all, I cannot wait to meet everybody here in this body, right? Being present, but then being present on this whole another level. I feel like what I thought this conference was going to be like 2 months ago, I think it's going to be a whole lot better and a whole lot more interesting regarding our changes.
Sure. I do too, which is why, a little bit, and I have to say this too. You and some of the others, they're like, well, what do I need to talk about? Do I need to pick my topic now? And I'm like, no, because the world's going to be different all the way into October. Oh my God, hasn't it been? So it's going to be a great conference, and come on over to Sarasota and Siesta Key Beach, where we're going to be doing the drum circles, or we're going to have sessions, and we're just going to be in the same place. We're going to enjoy being human together. Right, Katya?
Yeah. Yes. Like that last phrase, it just sums up it all.
Yeah.
Enjoying being human together.
Yeah. Well, I love it. So all of you out there who caught this live on Facebook and on Zoom, thank you so much for watching. Those of you who are seeing the recording of this, thank you for listening all the way to the end. Katya, I know we can find you at indigodairies.com, right?
Yep, correct.
Yep, and you can find me at CandaceCraw-Goldman.com, and also on the Quantum Healing Practitioners directory, Quantum Healing Practitioners.com, and that directory is for all healers, all seekers, all visionaries out there who want to connect with clients in this new world of 2017. So check us out. Thank you so much, Katya. I'll just talk to you later. Give your babies great big kisses. And Cherokee too. I want to see him someday. I know he's not coming down to Florida, not planning to, but give him a big hello for me, would you?
I will definitely, yes. They're probably all napping now, and I'm going to go join them.
All right. Go take a nap. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye.